everybody, Adrian Fuentes here. Did you know that the Democrats of Greater Tucson has a website, thedgt.org, and if you subscribe, it's only 20 bucks. You can support this great weekly communication where folks get together. Sometimes there's candidates, sometimes folks like me pop on to help understand what's going on in the world. The Democrats of Greater Tucson, thedgt.org. Join up today.
Okay, well, we're going to start our program. Thank you coming out today for a conversation with Greg Whitten. He's a Democratic candidate for the U.S. Congress in Arizona's 8th Congressional District. He is running against election-denying, Trump-endorsed, and failed Arizona Attorney General candidate Abe Hammdeh. Mr. Whitten is a third-generation Arizonan and a product of its public schools. He has worked for more than 15 years to keep America safe, serving as a biosecurity expert. His experience is rooted in getting groups and people from all perspectives to work together to solve problems. He has witnessed firsthand the challenges facing his community. His dedication to public service led him to serve as a senior leader at the Pentagon under President Obama, where he worked on national security issues and tirelessly improved healthcare access for our veterans. Greg is running for Congress because he believes we need leaders who can tackle our nation's pressing problems with pragmatism and compassion, not more divisive extremism. At the Pentagon, Greg served as Special Assistant to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear, Chemical, and Biological Defense Programs. While serving in the Pentagon, he oversaw a broad portfolio, but is proudest of leading a multi-year agency-wide effort to acquire and standardize electronic health records at the Department of Defense and drive information sharing with the Department of Veterans Affairs. This work dramatically improved the speed and quality of care provided to our nation's active duty military, veterans, and their family. Greg returned home to Arizona to care for his mother, who, like so many, had become addicted to opioids. His mother's suffering and death has fueled Greg's passion to take on the drug companies who make massive profits at the expense of patients. Greg knows this is just one example of how partisan politics stands in the way of government actually protecting and helping people. He is now running for the communities of the 8th Congressional District of Arizona to put people above partisan politics. Greg believes every Arizonan deserves to feel safe, secure, and protected, safe from the threats at home and from abroad, secure in a retirement that's been under threat. Greg is a third-generation Arizonan and proud product of the public schools, including the University of Arizona, where he earned his Bachelor of Arts in Public Policy. He has a master's in public administration from Harvard's JFK School of Government. Let's give a warm welcome to Ed Whitten.
Thank you so much.
And Greg is a Tucsonensis.
Yep. Well, I went to school in Tucson, originally from Phoenix, though. Thank you so much, Joe. I think you did a great job introducing me, so you all have my background. Bottom line is that, I spent my career being an independent voice for Arizonans. I'm running against a guy who's going to be a blank check for Donald Trump and Speaker Johnson. He said he was a prosecutor, but he never prosecuted a case. He says he will basically defund Social Security and Medicare because of the tax cuts that he supports. He will ban abortion, even though he says it's going to the states, because he said he would throw doctors and nurses in jail. Bottom line is, I've spent my career working for Arizona, and he spent his career basically twisting the truth so he could get elected. This is the most important election that we are facing. I think everyone here knows it. Everyone is volunteering. Everyone is an activist, but we have to fight back these MAGA extremists because we all know what they're going to do. But that's basically, I look forward to your questions today, conversation, and everything else like that. Where is CD8? Good question. So Congressional District 8 is all in Maricopa County. It is the west side of Phoenix. Glendale, Peoria goes up to Anthem. So if you look at CD1, just flip it on the other side, and it's the west side of Phoenix, basically. All metropolitan.
Okay, so you're ready for questions?
Yes.
Steve Linder has his hand up. Steve, let me,
Hi.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
I realize in CD8 you have a real uphill battle as far as
Yes.
what's going on there. I'd like you to give us some background into how badly it is as far as registration, Republican, Democrat, and also if you're going around the district, if you're doing canvassing or whatever, and you're doing door to door, how often do you come across people who are just blindly they vote Republican because they don't know how to do anything else, or are at least sympathetic to hearing what you have to say?
So a little bit of background on the race. Yes, I'm not crazy in the sense that when I first got into this race, I was running against an incumbent, Debbie Lesko. Since then, it has become an open seat. She has stepped down. I will tell you that we did a poll before the Republican primary, and since then we did a poll afterwards. We have picked up 4 points, so now we're within the margins, down 3 points with 16% undecided. I would have told you when we put that poll out, and you can talk to my senior advisors, I was ready to have my whole campaign based on the border, because everyone in the media and everyone says, oh, it's the border, it's a Republican place, like that's just how it is. Surprisingly enough, reproductive rights polled at about 90%, compared to border around 69, 70%. So still with reproductive rights being at the top of the ballot, that is the focus of this campaign, considering that the largest voting demographic in this district is 55-year-old and over white women. So we're really going hard on that, considering that Abe Hammdeh won't debate me, but I've asked him many times, just like Donald Trump in Florida, where would he vote on the proposition? And we all know where that is. He even attended a pro-life fundraiser 2 weeks ago. So we're hitting him extremely hard on that, knowing that if we get that message out, there are enough independents in this district, considering that it has the most independents out of any other congressional district in Maricopa County. Now, we all know, because we've been around, that independents in Arizona aren't true independents. But that being said, there is enough demographics in that, with also left-leaning Republicans that are there. Now, I am not going to say that there is not a full-on, MAGA piece of this district. I'm fully aware of that. That is a lot in Surprise, a lot in Peoria. That being said, he's sitting in his echo chamber of MAGA, right? And for me, going around the district and talking to people, even if they are Republicans or independents, I don't think there are enough MAGA voters to get him across the line in a general election. Or it's going to be close. Because if you see in that primary, there were enough MAGA voters to get him over the edge. But that being said, that was a 5-way primary, essentially, with Ben Toma also pulling a lot of those. And also us picking up points and a lot more undecideds after that primary tells me that there is a sliver of this district that are persuadable that could do that, especially over the abortion issue. Like I said, I think nationally women are going to deliver this election. And in my case, more than probably any other congressional district, if I pull it off, women will be the reason that happens. Split voting from their husbands and other things like that.
Okay. Well, I have a couple questions for you. Are you getting any help from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee?
No, not getting anything from the DCCC. We all know that this is an expansion seat. That being said, have been fundraising for now a year and a half. We had our biggest quarter on record, last one.
Congratulations.
Yes, raised $150,000. First month of this quarter and the last month have been building on each other. They're about 80,000 a month we've raised. So for Cooks plus 10, that is a pretty good raising. We're raising in and out of the state. I have a full-blown campaign staff. Angel runs my day-to-day. John Sutton, who ran the coordinated campaign, is my senior advisor. So we're giving this a real shot, and we'll see where the cards lay at the end of the day. But we're out there. The coordinated campaign for the Arizona Democratic Party opened an office in Sun City. They're carrying our literature. So that being said, there's never been a coordinated office in the West Valley. So I think people see with Kamala being at the top of the ticket, Ruben, that this is, if there was a year for this district to flip, this would probably be the best chance that we've had.
Wow. I get goosebumps. So when you say it's a +10, what does that mean?
So every district across the country is given a Cook score, which is essentially how red or how blue is it. In comparison, the CD1, which they call flippable, is a lean Republican, so that's somewhere around 4. If you go to Eli Crane's district, that's about a 7. This is a 10. Now, the ones that are very, very Republican are Gosar and Biggs. They push 18 to 20 plus Republicans. So it's essentially a score that they put for every congressional district of a plus each side. So you have Democratic strong ones where they're plus 15, like AOC's, but that leans Democratic. So it's how they judge each district and what it is, Republican to Democrat. They take the demographics of how the makeup is, and then they also look at how elections are. Now, let's be honest, Debbie Lesko did not have an opponent last time around, so they didn't get a real feel for what that was. And then the year before, the cycle before that was Michael Moscato. He did not really raise any money or run a campaign, get his name ID out there. And then if you go back to the special, he all ran, and it was 2 points when Debbie first got elected. So that being said, I think that score could go either way, but we'll see at the end of the day. I don't believe it's a true 10 but again, this is a very black and white election.
Okay. And Mike Bryan has his hand up. Mike?
I do have a couple of questions for you, Greg. Let's talk a little bit about your strategy. How are you getting your name out there? How are you getting the message out there? What's your mix of digital TV, walking the district, literature, so forth?
So like I said, the coordinated campaign is doing a lot of the heavy lift. They're going to be turning out, obviously, high propensity Democrats, low propensity Democrats, and left-leaning independents. So that's going to help me out a lot. We have a very, very vigorous mail program, considering that in this district, I have a lot of retirees. So mail is a good way to go, considering that if I were to go digital, it doesn't really get to them, considering that, maybe some Facebook ads, but that being said. So we have a vigorous mail program. We are going to be putting our first general election mailer out the day ballots drop, and that's going to be on me and him. And then we're going to do 4 subsequent mailers all the way up till right before Election Day, focusing on abortion, focusing on his record, focusing on me, and then, again, just a general election, get out, vote, and, where I stand on the issues and things like that. So that's the strategy with that. We also have all of our LDs and the ADLCC working with us across the board, canvases, things like that. So door to door, also a big door knocking program. That's one of our focus. We're trying to be one of the biggest congressionals in knocking doors. So that's also a big thing for us. So yeah, that's kind of the strategy of how we're going to get out there, get the name ID up.
Yeah, you have some competition in that effect, because the Dr.
Amish Shah.
Amish Shah, yeah, he's a big walker, so you got some good competition.
Yes, exactly. No, definitely.
My second question is, as far as Hiral Tipirneni getting within 2 points, have you talked to her at all about how she accomplished that?
I've talked to her a lot, and just how she did it. And it's very similar to my strategy, right? I'm at house parties all the time. You go to the voters, the clubs. It's a lot of retirees. So, getting out there and talking to them and listening to them, that's really where you got to meet them on the ground. And that's what I'm doing, basically, Republicans, independents, everyone else like that. So that was her strategy and what she suggested to me, especially now that the weather's cooling off and things like that. So that's really what I'm trying to do that she did, which is just very grassroots oriented. And that's the way you flip votes at the end of the day.
Yeah. One more question from me is, when you talk about Social Security, Medicare to these retirees, what do you tell them about the unique threat that Abe Hammdeh presents to their benefits and that they earned and worked for?
I mean, the bottom line is that he hasn't come out with a position. All he has said is that he wouldn't tax beneficiaries, which alone would bankrupt that program. So what I'm trying to say, and I actually just put out a press release on this today regarding this, is the fact is he won't debate me, so we can't challenge him on those things. What I'm saying is we have to make this program solvent, right, at the end of the day. So whether that be means testing, because I don't believe billionaires should get their full $30,000, which could bring $2 to $3 billion back into the program, right? Or other mechanisms to make this program solvent. Because at the end of the day, when I am going and talking to these retirees, I'm sitting across from them, and many of them tell me, am I choosing my medication or my groceries, right? And that's just not right for me. We have to figure out how to make this program solvent and how we have to be able to get it to the people that need it the most. That being said, I've never said that no one's getting kicked off. Everybody that paid in is going to get Social Security, but we have to come up with innovative ways to be able to do it. And Washington at this point is doing nothing. You have the typical politician saying, it's going to be okay, I'll take care of you. But what does that mean at the end of the day? Sure, it's popular to say, oh, you're on Medicare or you're on Social Security, we're not going to tax you. That's probably popular, but the program won't be around in 5 to 10 years, right? And that's not okay. And people are living longer. So if you're 60 and retired and you're expected to live till 85, when you're 80, that program's not going to be there to support you. So that's why I'm getting real on this issue and talking to it, because I'm sick of politicians just saying, it's going to be okay, I'll take care of you.
Okay, Susie Anderson.
How red are some of your constituents? I mean, do they slam doors in your face? Do they not answer the door?
I am not trying to be like, this is Tucson or any blue district at all. There are a lot of very MAGA people out here. But that being said, there are a lot of MAGA people everywhere. There's a lot of MAGA people in CD1, which they consider as a flippable district, right? Kirsten Engel has the same problem. I mean, Arizona is a swing state for a reason. So have I pulled out of my driveway and seen a Trump pickup truck with huge Trump flags on it? Have I seen the insurrection flag flown in my neighborhood? Sure, like it is, but that's also everywhere to that sense, right? My feeling is though, this is the election that we are going to knock them back, right? If we win this election, if Kamala wins this election, they're put in the corner. And the cult, as I like to call it, is getting smaller. And so if you put them in their echo chamber and where they are, and Trump loses and Abe loses, it's going to show that the Republican Party is not what that stands for. And I think that's why this is also one of the most important elections of our time.
Okay. I do have a question. The Pima County Republicans, I'm probably guessing a lot of us received some of the larger rectangular, lots of color pictures, and they were basically claiming that Trump is the champion of Social Security. I mean, they were really blatantly, stating something that isn't quite true. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's like I said before. Politicians across the board say he's the champion. Okay, what is his champion, right? So if I were able to debate my opponent, which he won't, I would ask him, great, you want to put more money back in the pockets of the recipients that are getting it now. That is amazing. You want to cut taxes. How are you going to make that program solvent in 5 to 10 years as champions? Long term. So like I said, if you're putting more money in someone's pocket when they're 65, in 10 years when they're 75, is that program going to be around? Because I don't know where in the budget you're going to go find that money and put that money in there. And that's what I don't understand. They talk about tax cuts across the board, which are great for the middle class, put more money in people's pockets. But if you're going to cut taxes for corporations and you're going to cut taxes for Medicare, where are you getting this money? And I don't understand where he thinks,
he's such interesting character to follow, and he can be just downright scary.
Yeah.
But sometimes he's already told us, right? He told an evangelical crowd, vote, please vote this time because you won't have to vote again.
Right.
What does that mean? I think we know what it means.
Yeah. He said he would be a dictator on only day one. I mean, right. The man says crazy things. But that being said, obviously I went for school for public administration. So I listened to podcasts and things like this on focus groups. he still gets away with well, he says a lot of things, but he won't do a lot of things. That's just ridiculous. Like, I don't understand how voters can kind of say that stuff, right? Or there's still voters that say, well, he's a businessman, so he'll be able to run the country. That doesn't make any sense to me, but
I agree.
that's how we do
I
country.
agree wholeheartedly with you.
Exactly. But
Okay, Mike Bryan has his hand up.
Yeah, part of
Mike?
it is Trump gets a pass from the media, and that's one of the big problems. But my
I
question
agree.
to you, Greg, is to talk a little bit more about yourself and your qualifications and your experience that you would bring to office where you elected.
yeah, so like I said, most of my career has been dedicated to public service. It was highlighted that I did work in biosecurity. I also worked on one of the largest programs to cut red tape so soldiers and veterans could get their health care more efficiently by bringing technology, the electronic health record, into that. I've worked in acquisition. I have worked in the government. I know how these things work, right? I've had to build budgets. I've had to do these things. So when I get to Washington, it's not like Abe Hammdeh, who for most of his career has been living off of his parents. When I land day one, I know where to go find these things, right? And if I don't know, I know that I will pull the right people in to have those questions. So if my constituents want something done, they can vote for me because on day one, I'm working for them, right? So if we're talking about Social Security, I am not an expert in that, but I do know how the budget works, and I also know how bureaucracy works. So the bottom line is I will find the people that I need to talk to and make congressional requests on that to pressure them. So on day one, I know how Washington works. I know how bureaucracy works, and I can go there and start delivering for my district and also across the board Arizonans in general.
Yeah, what kind of history does Mr. Hammdeh have in constituent services and committee work and all the things that go into actually working in Congress and getting things done?
He doesn't. But then that being said, he doesn't talk about these issues, right? He just sits there and blatantly follows whatever Donald Trump wants or Carrie Lake wants. And I don't work for a president. I work for my constituents. And I've said that since day one. I was a public servant. I know if my salary this is the problem with a lot of congressional representatives, not only Democrats and not only Republicans, but also Democrats, is they go to Washington and they don't think, well, what my salary is all taxpayer dollars. So at the end of the day, it is my job to serve you, the constituents. And the problem is that a lot of congressional members go there, and that's not what they're there for. They're there for getting on TV. They're there for pushing a party's agenda. They're doing those sort of things. But for me, I will fight tirelessly for the constituents of Congressional District 8.
Not to mention becoming a lobbyist when they leave Congress.
Or sitting on boards, whatever that comes out of being a congressional representative.
Okay. So, what might your question be, Andrea?
As someone who hopes to live till 80 and would like to be still getting Social Security, do you have specific ideas about preserving it? And I mean, I know one idea that's been floated is take the cap off the income level, which can be in which Social Security can be withdrawn. How feasible is that? You got any other ideas?
So I don't want to raise taxes. The bottom line is no, we don't need to raise taxes. There's a lot of things that can be done. And what you're talking about is something that the Arizona Republic tried to make me look bad, but it's actually something that works. It's called means testing, right? So we already do it for Medicare. It's capped at $250 right now. I would go higher than that. Billionaires don't need $30,000, right? We all know that. They probably don't even know they get it at the end of the day. I'm not saying they won't get anything, but if you want to recalculate the scale as you go up so that upper middle class people can receive more benefits and be solvent, that's a mechanism that could bring $2 to $3 billion back into the program. So that would make it more solvent in the longevity. So the program you will continually get your benefits 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
I'm sorry. So how would you accomplish this?
Means testing. So it's something they do with Medicare. As your income every year, say you are a billionaire, say Elon Musk wants the Social Security. Sure, I'm fine giving you a piece of the Social Security, but it's capped at $30,000 for them, right? If you recalculate it, say you give them 5, 10, I don't know, something around there, as you go higher up the scale, that money comes back to the bigger pot, which people that are in the middle class and upper middle class will be more solvent for a longer time. Makes sense? Because as of right now, Abe Hammdeh says we're just not going to tax you, which is going to put more money in your pocket now. True, but you're not going to get benefits in 5, 10 years, basically, right? So that's what you would do. It's essentially readjusting the program to be more solvent for people that are in the middle and upper middle class that need this program.
Anything else, Andrea?
Yes, you were Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear, Chemical, and Biological Defense Program. What did you do? How do these skills transfer to running in CD8 and heading up CD8?
So when I was the special assistant, I oversaw the chemical and biological defense programs. So I worked on pandemic preparedness. So what that means is during COVID-19, I worked with the cities of San Francisco, New York, and LA. So I was the one that worked on the H1N1, Ebola, all those other things like that. So basically disease surveillance, but also pandemic preparedness. So I worked on the first vaccine, the mRNA, Moderna. That was my project. I worked on that technology that produced that. So how this would prepare me for CD8 is working within the large bureaucracy of the Pentagon, making sure that we solved up funding, making sure that we were able to make solvents when a lot of people thought, oh, we're never going to wear masks. We're never going to, have a pandemic in our life. And then COVID-19 came around. So I was the one that built that 5-6 years earlier so that when we were in the pandemic, we had some mechanisms to do that. So when I go to Washington, I'll be working on that issue as well, making sure that we are prepared, because I don't want to ever see a global shutdown ever again.
I understand there was a preparedness group under Obama. The next president got rid of it. And where does your effort fit into there?
So the technology that was used to produce Moderna was researched and built under Obama, right? Then the program to be able to continuously do that and work with those companies, the pharmaceutical companies, to be able to build vaccines and mechanisms like where they actually manufacture them, got defunded under Trump because they wanted to build more F-35s. So they felt that disease wasn't important. So then once COVID came in, which remember originally he said, oh, that's fake, that's not real. Once it actually hit, it set us back. Remember, it was almost a year of trying to produce that then they shifted funding back into it and then had to build from there. So essentially those years that he had it, there were no funding for it, set us back that much farther so that we couldn't get to the point where we were a year into the pandemic. So we could have probably produced a vaccine 4 months into the pandemic, and we would have been out of lockdown by a year-ish instead of 2 or 3 years.
Okay, what were some of the other issues that your future constituents targeted when, you mentioned abortion rights, you mentioned the border was not as represented as maybe other polls and things like that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously Medicare, Social Security, everybody cares about that. Abortion was a big one. The one thing I will say about the border is this. The bottom line is we had one of the most comprehensive bills in, ever since basically Reagan. It was sponsored by one of the most conservative senators out of Oklahoma. And the bottom line is the Republicans killed it due to politics. And they say it's not enough, but let's get to a starting point, right? And now this is what I tell my constituents. Let's stop playing politics with the border. It is time to solve this problem. And we had a start to a solution. Was it perfect? No. But the president could shut down the border. Also on top of that, it gave more money to the Department of Justice and the ability for DHS to do amnesty hearings at the border. Those are things that we need to do now because amnesty hearings, as we all know, are 6 months to 2 years out. And that's when people go into society and into America. And that's just a problem. Project 2025 would kill the Department of Justice. How is that going to solve anything at the end of the day? That's my stance on the border, and that's pretty popular.
And let's also reinforce who ordered the Republicans to do that.
Right. Exactly. Donald Trump.
Susie Anderson has her hand up.
Greg, what kind of industry do you have in CD8? Are you building missiles? Is it farming? Is it,
It is
medical?
Taiwan Semiconductor Plant, TSMC, $4 billion cornerstone of the CHIP Act, $80,000 over the next 5 years, sits directly in my district. My opponent does not even know what it is. He calls it a microchip factor, and he's more concerned about people sneaking over the border and spying on it from the mountains, which is absolutely ridiculous because that's not what we need to be focusing on. I would turn CD8 into a tech hub. That's what I want to do. You know, there's a lot of open land there. There's a lot of chip companies already coming in. I would apply for the Department of Commerce Tech Hub RFPs, which congressional members can do. And I want to grow the district. I mean, the bottom line is that what I want to create is for not the retirees, but for the younger families in my district, not just jobs, but really good jobs, right? Jobs that can put food on the table, afford gas, afford housing. That's what we need to do. And there's already the framework there to be able to do this. I mean, I got to commend Kate Gallego, the mayor of Phoenix. She got the community colleges to get a 2-year program for this. And if you complete it and get a job in a chip manufacturing plant, you end up like it's free. So there's a lot of roads. So I want to invest in this district. And unfortunately, my opponent and his predecessor do not care about these things. I mean, Debbie Lesko did not vote for the CHIPS Act, which was bipartisan, and she also didn't even attend the opening because the president was there. That's ridiculous. Like, even if, God forbid, Donald Trump did get elected and they was going to bring jobs to my district, we can't play politics with people's lives.
Okay, Mike Bryan has the hand up.
Yeah, I actually have a follow-up on that. What kind of response are you seeing from the business community? Do you have large companies or business leaders from the district who are backing your campaign because they see the Republicans really don't care about business anymore?
Well, unfortunately, TSMC is an international company, so they don't really get involved in politics that much. That being said, just highlighting this issue is extremely helpful, but also people are excited, right? A lot of people don't know about these things, right? And so me bringing a light to it instead of what the Republicans did in their primary has really gotten a lot of traction in this district and has picked me up a lot of things. Like, for example, Glendale Chamber of Commerce. They obviously, I'm involved with them. They're very much in favor of me. On top of that, you know, the unions, I'm endorsed by AFL-CIO, electronic workers. A lot of business unions have been backing my campaign, yes.
Why don't you let our Democrats Greater Tucson know how we can help?
Donations are huge. Angel Diaz, my campaign manager, is on here. You can go to www.mylastnamewhitten, WHITTENFORAZ.com. You can donate there. We're coming down to crunch time. That would be really helpful. So thank you for having me. You know, this was a great opportunity. One of the best discussions I've had in a long time.
Well, we're so glad you came. And Andrea Kennedy is too. She's got some more questions for you.
All right.
How is your campaign and the DLCC getting your name out there? Because one of the things I ran into canvassing here is I don't know who this is. I don't know who this is. And we have Maricopa County, which is there's a lot of Republicans there. How are they getting you and your name out there? Thank you.
Well, yeah. So we're just helping each other out, right? Knocking on doors, carrying each other's lit. That's really how we're getting our name out there, getting their name out there, that there's a Democrat on the ballot, things like that. Couple of districts out here, LD 27, you know, was targeted and things like that. So we're really, you know, that's how we're working together. It's a coordinated effort across the party, the Arizona Democratic Party, ADLCC, and then also us as well.
Thank you. TV ads, YouTube, cable,
digital ad. I'm doing digital ads. TV, just too expensive at this point. I mean, it's pretty much done by, you know, the Senate and the presidential. So I probably will not do TV, but I will do digital, and I am doing mailers as well.
Yeah, got a lot of competition for airspace this cycle.
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to make a final pitch for all the people who watch this afterward on YouTube. Mr. Whitten could really use your dollars. So please go and donate to his campaign. It's money well spent. It builds our bench, and it builds more activism within his CD8, because every dollar that we actually spend in CD8 is activating Democrats and getting the message out and getting a democratic message across. And even if, God forbid, we have Abe Hammdeh as our next congressman from Arizona, that money is absolutely not wasted because it activates people up and down the ballot. That means that other congressional races may not be affected, but certainly the statewide races will be affected. And we need to carry Arizona both in the Senate and for the presidency. And Mr. Whitten can certainly help that on the grassroots. Right now, he's looking at about well, if you take out Mr. Hammed's $400,000 loan to his own campaign, which probably came from his parents, we're talking about a deficit of about $600,000. Is that about right?
No, so if you go down to cash on hand, he ended that with 156. I think we run it with 120. So you got to look cash on hand, not overall raise.
Yeah, I was looking at the
As of
totals.
right now, we are only in the deficit. I mean, if it's really truly is cash on hand, because the loan that he received from his brother boosted that up, so that's not there anymore. So we're roughly 30-40,000 difference on cash on hand at the end of the day.
Yeah, so we can, with a couple of good donations, maxing out, we can meet Hammdeh at going into the closing of this campaign. So that's great news, great information, Greg. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think you got a question in the chat room, Mike.
Looks like Gay Gilbert asks, what's your position on the environment, fracking, the wall, etc.? So I guess, I think she means by that building Trump's ridiculous wall. But mostly, I think, focus on the environment and fracking.
No wall. Green New Deal is imperfect, but we have to think about our environment in the future. Water in this state is absolutely huge. I will continue the 7-state strategies. But on top of that, we have to think about going forward how I'm not trying to take out the lettuce industry, which is huge, but we need to think about what crops we're going to be planting and what is water resistant. We also have to continue what the governor is doing with the 100-year rule. We also have to come down on international people coming in here and you being able to grow things like Saudi Arabia. That is just not right. We need to have things that are going to be produced and help Arizonans at the end of the day. So that's kind of where I stay on the environment. Very familiar with it. Pandemics are directly tied to global warming, so very familiar. And I think it's something we have to think about and work on, going forward.
Yeah. So could you expand a little bit on what the 7-state strategy is? I'm not familiar
So
with that.
that's the Colorado River negotiation that happened when every state became a state. It's how you share the Colorado River basin in regards to water. It's been huge because obviously some of the larger states like California take a good chunk of that. We don't get all of our water from the Colorado River, but we need to work together with the 7 states that are a part of that to be able to equally distribute as much as we need to be able to be solvent. So as of right now, Senator Kelly and Kirsten Sinema have been very active on that and have done a really good job. But as of right now, the House hasn't done a whole lot on that, but that's something that I would bring to the forefront.
It seems to me that we're really not butting up against our limits yet, because we still have most of our water goes to agricultural use.
Yeah.
And some of that, as you point out, is wasteful and uneconomical in the long run. So we can certainly redistribute that to our cities and towns who need to grow. Can you talk a little bit about the impact of water law here in Arizona and what, if anything, the national government can do to help Arizona out with its water future?
Water, for the most part, is a state issue. It's just how it is regulated. That being said, when you think about federal lands, you can put things in there where if there's federal lands being used by a company or a company decides to buy federal lands, they cannot put private wells on them so that they're pulling out of our groundwater. Things like that, I think, are things where you can equally distribute water across the board. So that's what you can really do at the federal level. And like I said, continue to work with the other states. So equal distribution across the board on those things, across the board on the 7-state strategy and things like that.
It occurs to me that's also a bit of an infrastructure play, because one of the things you can do in order to expand the water supply is reuse.
Right.
advanced water treatment systems these days, while being very expensive, hence infrastructural help from the federal government, it's very effective in expanding the water supply. Whereas we don't really have a choice, to expand the water supply otherwise.
Exactly. No, 100%. And so, it's one of those things where you can look at different innovative ways and things like this, but what you just don't want to do is you just don't want corporations and companies being able to come into Arizona and be able to use a lot of water resources of their own to be able to drain the groundwater or the table.
Okay. Have you taken advantage of the opportunity I'm not sure how to describe it, but I get a lot of requests for chipping in with contributions to other political candidates. I mean, my text box is full and now my email is getting full.
Yes, there's 475 of us. So yeah, everybody's trying to get every ounce of dollars out of any Democrat there is across.
How's that working for you?
I mean, it's working great. One thing I like to joke is people always come up to me and they go, "What's it like to run for Congress?" And my friends are like this, like, "Is it like the West Wing?" And I tell them, I'm a glorified telemarketer at the end of the day. I spend 7 to 8 hours a day on the phone. I mean, that's how we like, calling in state, out of state, getting hung up on, getting people. And I honestly tell every Democrat that is tired is thank you, even if they don't donate to my campaign, because I know that everybody's getting inundated across the board. But yes, it's going well for me. Again, as we started out this conversation, it's an uphill battle, right? But at the end of the day, every district should have the opportunity to have a choice, right? And that's where I started this journey and where I'm going to end this journey. So that's how I talk to donors is like everyone, just like I forgot who said it, but this district is going to help Kamala out. This district is going to help Ruben out. The reason I say that is because there's a Democrat on the ticket. There is a pro-choice person on the ticket, right? So maybe those voters that necessarily would maybe sit it out because they're like, not that interested. I don't like the candidates, X, Y, Z, or I don't like Abe Hammdeh, so I don't want to vote, right? Now they have a choice. So those people are going to turn out. And so if you donate to my campaign, you're helping that turnout effort, which across the board is going to help everybody up the ticket, but also down the ticket, down to the county and everything else like that.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to chat with Kirsten Engel at all, running in Pima County?
I have not. We're all really, really busy at this point. So, running our own races and stuff like that. So I haven't had a chance yet to talk to her.
She's putting out much stronger emails as far as really calling out her very MAGA.
That's what we're doing as well. Like we're running on throwing doctors and nurses in jail. We are running on his, MAGA of MAGA craziness and things like that. It wasn't unfortunate because I didn't want to run against him, but when Blake Masters was in the race, he's got a much more national name to be able to say that with Peter Thiel and everything else like that. But once I get into a conversation with someone outside the state and give them the background on what's going on, they tend to be like, okay, we don't need people like that in Congress.
One solicitation that I saw that I thought was really unique is Sherrod Brown is running very, very hard, the senator in Ohio. So he actually started his pitch with a picture of him as an Eagle Scout back in the day, and he said that's when I really decided I wanted to serve, that I wanted to be a leader, and so I thought that was really, really cool. I've been sharing that a lot.
The thing is the name of the game is always, how do we catch your guys' attention, right? So that's the thing. Everyone is inundated with text. Everyone is inundated with emails. Every politician says $1 or I'm going to lose, right? That's how it is. But you are right. It is the knickknacks of marketing to be able to catch someone and at the right time to, have them donate to your campaign. Specifically, if you're not in Arizona, if you're outside Arizona too.
Okay. Well, Mike, I think we have had a very vigorous and wonderful interview with our congressional candidate, Ed Whitten. Everybody, let's give him a nice, warm thank you for being here. And
you, Greg.
we really appreciate it. We'll be following you. And
Yeah.
if you'd like, we have a weekly newsletter, and I'd love to see your piece on Social Security. And maybe we could even run
Angel,
that.
you can forward the press release we have that's out there and everything else like that to put it in there. And just, thank you again. This was an amazing conversation. And like I said, we only got 44 days left. So let's go out there and win this election.
Hey everybody, it's Senator Mark Kelly. As all of you know, Arizona Democrats have had a lot of important wins over the last few years. We won 2 U.S. Senate races, and we delivered Arizona's electoral votes to President Biden and Vice President Harris. We elected Governor Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, and Attorney General Chris Mays. Now, those elections were close, and our victories mattered. Arizona Democrats from the federal to the local level have delivered real results for our state on critical issues like combating climate change, lowering prescription drug costs, protecting the right to vote, and preventing more restrictions on abortion access. The Democrats of Greater Tucson offers the opportunity to hear from elected officials and candidates about that important work and the issues that matter to them. That information will be invaluable as Arizonans head to the polls. So this election cycle, whether you're signing up to knock doors, make phone calls, or joining the Democrats of Greater Tucson to hear from and speak to Democrats in our area, please know that your voice matters and we need you on this team. Thank you.